In the last few years, we've seen a wave of young Africans leaving home, chasing new beginnings, opportunities, and stability abroad. Japa has almost become a movement, even a mindset. But what about the ones who stayed? Today's episode is about the audacity to stay, to build, to thrive, and to dream right where you are. My guest is Kemi Onabanjo-Joseph, an associate partner at McKinsey, a leadership coach, a speaker, and an all-round inspiration. Kemi has built an extraordinary career and life in Nigeria with a kind of clarity and joy that almost feels countercultural in this season of mass migration. We'll talk about what it takes to stay rooted in purpose when the world says leave, the lessons she's learned by choosing home, and how Kemi continues to thrive, lead, and shine right here at home. So, Kemi, let's start where we always do. What's your zero gen flex? Kemi, we start every episode with a question. What's your zero gen flex?
But I've been thinking about this question. I'm not sure what angle to even go with it, but I think my zero gen flex would be never backing down. That's my zero gen flex. I've had some challenging situations, but I will not back down. I'll go again. I'm one of those we go again girls. And that has increasingly become my zero gen flex, I would say. So no matter what situation I'm faced with, I will keep trying until I surmount that obstacle or I get around it. Of course, within reason, right? But I won't stop one time. I will go again. So yeah, my flex is I'm a go again girl. We go again. Yeah.
I love that because, and it ties in very nicely with this episode, the audacity to stay, right? The audacity to stay in Nigeria and thrive and hold on and make it work and make it look great, while at it. So I love that, you are tenacious. I think tenacity is something that I can build more, and I've had to build that muscle a lot more in recent years. So jumping into, the audacity to stay in Nigeria, right? You've had every reason and opportunity to travel abroad. And, you work internationally, you work in an international company, you are an associate partner. Maybe, maybe even more, last I checked, you're an associate
Last you
partner. So
checked, we'll see what it is at the time of publishing.
hey. And you have these global networks. How did you come to make the choice to build your life and career in Nigeria when when it seemed though, it seemed that everyone was moving out?
Couple of things. I think the first one is just a conviction, right? I started with a conviction. I've also tried to leave, so I'm not going to say that it's
I
always
want to
been a
hear that
stay
story.
story. Yes, I wouldn't say it's always been a stay story. When I was, trying to get to undergrad and go to college, I was absolutely trying to get out of Nigeria. And I was very sure I wanted to come to the US. I don't even know why. I actually don't know why, but I just thought, oh, the US is where I want to be. And I was going to study medicine. I was quite young. And so the two things I was trying to escape actually at the time was I somehow told myself I wanted to be the youngest graduate of something, something, something by something, something, something. Who gave me who set that target for me? I don't know. And so I thought, if I go to university in Nigeria, these people and their ASU strikes are going to get in the way of my ambition. So I'm not gonna do that. And then the second thing was I really wanted to study medicine. I thought I wanted to be a doctor. Keyword thought. And so I guess through my research in the course of doing my SATs and all of that, I did think that, getting a medical degree in the US was going to set me up for a really good life, as well. And so I was, quite keen on going. And I just didn't get my visa. I did everything, applied to all the right schools, got scholarships. My I-20 came. I really, was very gallantly marching to the embassy, armed with prayers and all my parents' documents. And I got denied. And so I remember weeping. We lived on the mainland then from Walter Carrington. The embassy is still where it was then.
Yeah.
I remember crying all the way home and like think I don't know, when last you lived in Lagos, but think rush hour traffic, crying, weeping in rush hour traffic. It's many hours of crying. And I cried and cried and cried and cried and I thought, what am I gonna do? And as a go again girl, I was like, I will try next year. But in the meantime, I decided I was just going to enroll and start earning credits that I could transfer. Right. So instead of just waiting at home twiddling my thumbs, I already had done a bit of a gap year anyway. So I thought I'm going to go to some school, do the closest degree that, had relevant courses that I could transfer to the US, when I was ready. And I remember that, I then went to Covenant University, as you know, and the only course that was closest to me was computer science, right? It was a new school. I was the second set. So they hadn't built out their human sciences faculty yet, right? And so after my first semester, I was like, you know what? It's not that deep. I actually like these people that are here. And because in Covenant University, and this is a very, interesting part of my story that I had not connected up until now, there's a big focus on purpose, right? And meaning and living a life that is anchored, on contribution and and
Yeah.
being value adding and all of that, right? It's actually one of our core values, like sacrifice and diligence and, contribution mentality are all parts of the core values. I think that kind of flipped the script for me because now I was like, I'm not running away. Why don't I stay and just figure out who I want to be? What am I called to be? What am I called to do? Versus just saying I want to be a doctor who's high earning in the US, right? Or be this youngest graduate of medicine or whatever, which was what I was all anchored on previously. And so in that moment, I thought, well, I don't know what I want to do yet. Why don't I figure it out and then go from there? I, never left.
I, two things. First of all, that's such a fantastic story. But two things that I want to say. First of all, it's interesting that you're just connecting the dots now because I don't know when I didn't go to Covenant, and but I think coming out of uni, I went to Obafemi University, and like seeing how Covenant people
Great. Yes.
carry greatest if carried themselves. I said, someone has told these people that they have to go and be great. Like they have this burden like of I have to contribute. Like there's literally something on their backs, and that's how they move.
Yeah.
And so I love that that you've kind of even like added color to sort of the things that they instilled in you while you were at Covenant. The second thing, Kemi, your story and my story, bar for bar. Like
Really?
almost, I'm telling you, I was meant to go to the UK. So mine was the UK. I had my admission. In fact, I was crying because the visa process was getting delayed, and I was like, it's freshers week. All my classmates now they're meeting each other. The dorm that I want will get full. I won't be able to get the dorm. I was crying, not knowing that the visa was going to get rejected. By the time the visa was rejected, I couldn't even cry anymore. So my uncle who had
You
been
had
running up and
cried
down with
already.
me was like, "Is everything okay?" Because he was now worried because I didn't cry again. I was out of tears. I was like, whatever. And then I went to Ife, and that was also the beginning of just like an awakening for me to purpose.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I
Yeah.
didn't even know that we shared like this
That,
story. I love
yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
how did that now translate to your career?
Yeah. Yeah. So I then stayed, right? I didn't leave anymore. You know, decided I was going to. I also got somewhere in there. I got lazy. I was just like, this one is too much. It's that transfer. I was like, let me stay, let me finish. And I still somewhere in the back of my mind, I have to be very honest, but I could still convert this to a pre-med, right? Like in the US, for example, you need to be a pre-med anyway. I was like, I can still do it. But I remember that when I graduated, I was still like in search of what is this thing I wanted to do. In the course of uni, though, I realized I don't think I want to be a doctor, right? The reason why I wanted to be a doctor was because I thought it was the best way to help humanity. But I also then discovered many other paths. And during all my holidays, I actually would go and explore different things. I found out I was good with people. And I thought, oh, maybe I want to do HR. Then I did HR for like 2 weeks. I said, nah, I don't want to do HR.
2 weeks.
Remember, all of this, I was a computer science major, right? But I did realize that, and I always say that tech wasn't sexy then. So, I would have been a techist, but I didn't stay. But the year it was 2003, 2004. There was nothing. The only thing you would do would be coding in the back of nowhere, right? As at the time. And I just started exploring. At some point, I thought I wanted to be an image consultant. At another point, I thought I was going to be like a coach, all sorts of things, right? But I kept testing and exploring. And for me, like, people stumble on purpose and people stumble on those things in different ways. For me, I think I went through a process of elimination, that by gradually eliminating different things, I arrive at a smaller subset of, what my own options and what the possibilities are for me. And I was still exploring. That's how I got into consulting. I was like, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. Whatever I decided to do, I knew I would do it well. I was now just trying to find something that I could do well and enjoy. Like, I'm a first child, I'm a first daughter. There is a
Same.
sense of obligation that comes, like, you will do it, you have to do it. You might not enjoy it, but you will do it and you do it well. And so I wanted to add the enjoyment elements to it, because also in this journey of purpose and all of that, sometimes the way they'll describe it is something you can do if they don't pay you. I'm like, obviously, they have to pay me.
Yeah.
So so I need to find this thing that maybe I can subsidize them. We still have to get paid.
Yeah.
But is
Yeah.
that something that I can kind of subsidize them if they don't want to pay me full to
Yeah.
do? And so I just kept exploring. And it's something I keep telling a lot of my youngsters, just experiment, just keep trying. And so management consulting became a safe place to experiment for me. That's how I thought about it. I was like, this is the one place where I can change industries every 2 market days and not be seen as schizophrenic. My CV will not look crazy if I'm changing
Yeah.
stuff. And mind you, I went into McKinsey 4 years after graduation. So it wasn't as if I went directly. I first worked at
Straight.
Zenith
Right.
Bank,
Right.
exactly, tried some things. And then I went to do a graduate training program at Ericsson, did all sorts of things there before I then, moved into management consulting. And so that was like, let me keep trying. I'm now getting to where I now decided I'm betting on Nigeria, right? It's going to work. I then mistakenly did a public sector project. And for the first time, I thought there's life outside of Lagos, because for whatever reason, and this is something that I found quite rampant. Not everybody thinks about, at least in 2010, 2011, I guess social media had not become as mainstream as it is. But a lot of us were not thinking about governance at the time. A lot of us were not thinking about just the impact of policies and all those things on our lives. We were just, I guess, going with the flow. And so for the first time, I did a public sector project, and it was a whole new world. A whole new world. I was like, ah, this is how our lives are run. Like, I could totally see how my life, my family's life, these are the people that are making decisions about our lives. And I realized that, like, the quality of talent there wasn't the highest. And so I then said, I can check out, or I can be part of the critical mass, that is going to try to make something happen here. Again, with that, mindset of, I'm here to make a contribution. I'm sent, to sectors and industries to go and make change happen. I'm light. I'm going to go and shine light there, etc. And so I decided, I was going to do a lot of work to help unlock, this potential that Africa has. The year was 2012, 2013. Africa was rising, the rise of the middle class. There was just a lot of excitement and enthusiasm about Africa. And I thought, I want to be part of this. I want to be part of the team that's making this happen. And that's how they sucked me in. Oh, hey, they sucked me in real bad. I tell you, they sucked me in today. Like today, I actually do maybe like this of my work, 5 to 10% is private sector. I do all of my work in like economic development, and do work with
Oh.
governments, with development partners, with philanthropies on topics of economic development. That one project literally changed the course of my life, I would say, because that's all I'm doing now, right? I said, well, let me see if I can. It's now, I think I did that project in 2012. It's now 14 years.
Wow.
I'm 13 years. I'm still in the middle of that thing. And so when I went to business school, again, I had an opportunity to check out, right? Um, and it was a tough decision that I won't lie, because I went to business school in 2015. Devaluation, the first tranche of devaluation happened in 2016.
Yeah.
And
Were you
so my
paying
business
anything out
school
of
loans,
pocket?
absolutely I was. I wasn't sponsored uh, because I didn't join McKinsey as an analyst. So I joined as an experienced hire. An experienced hires didn't get, sponsored for business school. So my business school was paid out of pocket, essentially.
Yeah.
And so whatever loan, out of pocket plus loan, my loan all of a sudden became times three of the value in Naira. And it's not as if my salary was going to times three, as well. And so I remember, like, upon graduation, I was like, going back to Nigeria is a gamble. It's risky because first, I don't want any global, loan people chasing me up and down, right? I have a reputation to protect. So I need to be able to meet my loan obligations. Um, and it wasn't a government loan, I mean,
Yeah. I know.
our government doesn't give, educational loans like the US, for example, even the UK. So this was a private loan that I needed to pay back ASAP. Hey, and I was thinking, am I going to be able to cover these obligations? But I had such strong conviction. And this, if we don't say anything else, it's about conviction. I had such a strong conviction that I was meant to be here.
Hmm.
I had such a strong conviction that I was supposed to be part of the change agents, the people that were going to make this thing happen. And I remember talking to my office manager at the time when I was thinking of coming back. And he said to me, he's not even African. But he said to me, look, I've seen you in so many different contexts. I see that you shine and you thrive when you're doing, like, work with the government and all of that. He said, I understand the realities of your loan. And I know that I'm not giving you a 3x increase, but you can start the future now and, begin to do what you want to do now. Or you can wait 2 years, 3 years while you go off, to a different geography, make some, forex and pay down your loan. Up to you. And I think that was what tipped me over. It's like, you can start the future now, or you can start in 2 or 3 years'
Very,
time.
very well phrased, very intelligently phrased.
He's like, I'm not gonna tell you to come back, because if you come back and you are broke, you're looking at me and say, this man ruined my life. But he said, you can start the future now, or you can start in 2 years' time. And I was like, you know what? I'll start now. Has it been easy? Has it been as I said, it was a very difficult decision to make at the time. But I said, you know what, I'm gonna come back, and I'm betting on this. I'm betting on this country. I'm betting on that we'll make it work somehow. And I'm still betting. I'm still here.
Kemi, I'm so proud of you.
Mm.
I have to say, I mean, I don't even have any rights to like be proud of you, but I feel such a kinship with your spirit and the fact that you have stayed, and the fact that it also comes down to a personal conviction about where you need to be. So
Mhm.
it's not about like what's happening or, one side versus the other. It's like at the end of the day, where am I supposed to be in this season, and like how do I just courageously stand my ground. I love it, and I think, like I was saying, I feel like everything that you're doing now is a seed, and I really see those seeds like becoming a harvest. On a lighter note, I was a KPMG. I started up my career in KPMG management consulting, and I remember the first couple of public sector projects that I was on, and I was like, there's no, there's no way, there is no way that this country is going to make it. If these are the people, if these are the people making decisions, I was like, what? Oh my god!
Yeah.
And I mean, for me, I was just so gung ho and like I want to go get my master's and I'm going
Mhm.
to go to the US and all, but it's interesting how that, experience for you, awoke this desire to be like, I need to be part of this change.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, coming to like, your day to day now, Nigeria can be a lot. The systems, the stress, the people, and, it's almost like a flywheel that keeps exacerbating itself. How do you how do you maintain that sense of joy and stability to be able to thrive?
Nigeria is a lot, a whole lot. And, there's this thing that people see on social media about, hoping that Nigeria doesn't happen to you. And I'm sure people in Ghana or wherever else say the same thing, right? But it's really around, I hope that third world, third world country realities don't catch up with you. And, I mean, Nigeria, I guess whatever has happened to me, I have experienced, some of the dark sides, right? Of, poor healthcare, for example. I always share the story
Yeah.
about how I lost my child on the day I had her. And it was literally down to a healthcare glitch. Like there was nothing wrong with me. My pregnancy was smooth, everything was perfect, and then it was not, you know. And that honestly was a moment to be like, I'm done. This country will not kill me. Because I also almost died, right? Because it was also a medical emergency for me. And that's like on one extreme, it's like death. But there's also, as you said, the stress. This Friday now, my children's class said it's costume day. I said, where do I want to start? If I was living somewhere else, Amazon, it will get to me the next day. This one I have
Yeah.
to plan, I have to think, I have to this, I have to that. And so there's some of that. There's also some of the basic infrastructure that's not there. You
Yeah.
know, you generate your power, you generate your water. Like there's so many levels to it where almost before you start operating at the level of self-actualization, you have to just do too much to get to that
Yeah.
point, right?
Yeah.
But how do I maintain my joy? And I want to acknowledge it. I think it's important to acknowledge that these things are there, and not to make it seem like, oh, everything is smooth. There are things that also work well for me here. For example, in this phase of life that I'm in, childcare is not as reliable, but it's more available. On this side
And
of town,
affordable. Yeah.
community and affordable, and there's community and all of that. So what makes me stay grounded? What makes me, not go crazy? The first one is um remembering that again, there's conviction. Thankfully, I'm married to somebody who also chose to bet on Nigeria. And I imagine that if we were not aligned. In fact, I was so sure that in part of the things I was looking out for as I was thinking about the partner I was going to be with was somebody who liked Nigeria, or at least they hate Nigeria.
Yeah.
Because around that time, when did I get married? 2019. We're already getting into the Exodus times. We're already getting to Japa times. So it was even a bit of a fad, right, to be leaving.
Yes.
I think we met in 2016. Yeah, when I got back from business school. But he really liked Nigeria. Was very optimistic. I said, hey, it's the kind of people that I want to be friends with. So that not even dating, let's just be friends, so that we can be encouraging each other in the Lord, right?
Yeah.
When the going gets tough. And the fact that I have a partner where we are aligned really, really helps because it just keeps me grounded. However, I remember at some point I had a conversation with him and I said, can we just make sure we set up a routine to check in like every 6 months to make sure that we're not staying just because we want to be different, but to make sure that we're staying because we have a conviction and we have, we're people of faith. You might be able to tell, but we're people of faith. And are we sure that this is where God is asking us to be? Because if tomorrow God says move, we move, right? But we need to constantly check in to be sure that we are hearing right and we are aligned. And if we haven't heard different, we just continue as is, right? So having a partner that's aligned with that has helped because, even when I'm feeling a little bit restless, um, usually it happens when there's like a visa rejection or there's, usually these things that trigger the restlessness. I can go back and say, hey, let's pray, let's check. Are we still, on the right path? The second thing is community. Community is such a big part of my life, our lives. I'm a big don't do life alone, advocate, right? And our community is still very much here, right? Here in Nigeria. People are able to build community when they travel as well, which is fine. But I think our community, our support systems, everything is here. And so that also keeps us grounded, even when things are tough. We all cry together, we all moon together. So that also really, really helps. I think the third thing is that we're still leading meaningful lives here. If we were, and I say we now because as you can tell, like this decision is not solely mine
Yeah.
anymore. Like when I was single, it was just me. Now that I'm married, it has to be a we decision, right? Especially we're not just even married, we have kids. So, the layers, there are many layers on it, right? We are working, we're leading meaningful lives where we feel like we're adding value, and there's a sense of purpose to what we're doing and the lives that we're living. Whether it's through our jobs or through the work that we do in our community and all of that, right? And so even when the going gets tough, there's a sense of we're here for a reason. We're here for a
Yeah.
reason. And we see the change that can happen, the change that we can catalyze, and the opportunities that exist for us as well.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's doing things. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a plus or even an absolute must having a partner that is aligned because I
Yeah.
can imagine how if one person just falters a little bit, it's like, please, let's quit tomorrow, let's leave. Like, especially when you have the credentials and you have everything that's required to be able to move. So that alignment I think is so important. Um and even me when I was choosing a partner too, even though my husband did come, I was it was also important to me for it to be someone that was not like like never, never, never. Because we also
Yeah,
have that
exactly.
conversation of like when if we hear a goal, like we're gonna pack our bags and go.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I can definitely relate to that. So
And I think that I know this is your podcast, but
go ahead, please.
um, I do think that what you're doing, even with this podcast, is a seed of, continually staying connected back to home, right? And making sure
Yeah.
that you don't completely lose sight
Yeah.
of the origin and where you're
Yeah.
coming from. And so, indeed, some of these things that you're doing now is what will facilitate the ease of the move. Look, every time like God asks people to move, it's not easy. Moving
Yeah.
is not even just moving from one house to another in this Lagos is not easy. How much more like
Yeah.
completely uprooting
Yeah.
your life and going to a different city, a different country, a different, context.
Yeah.
Um and so I do think, and I do admire this work that you're doing that just keeps home in view, right? To make sure that, when if it ever comes to the time where you get an instruction to go, it's not, too hard or it's
Yeah.
less hard. Yeah.
It's less hard. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you saying that and like reflecting that back to me. Thank
Yeah.
you. So we're gonna go into Agonia, but there's one thing that I wanted to ask before we go into like an audience question. Um, you know, I always think about multicultural environments and the advantages that we might not even know that we have when we're from a different place.
Mhm.
What's one lesson or one way this has showed up in your career where maybe there's something that you did or there was a way that you approached a challenge or a situation that it was your Niger sense that really that really propelled you to like excel in that situation or solve that challenge.
Yeah. I would say like something showed up this year, for example, where I started doing work in a new country. So yes, I live here, but I do work across Africa. And it's very interesting. Africa is not a country. I know we say it, but it's not a country. And the way that, West Africans operate is quite different from how East Africans operate. Um, and I was seeing it like firsthand. This year I've done a lot of work in East Africa, to the point where I'm like, you guys need to give me citizenship, man. Yeah. And I remember that I was trying to unlock one ministry. Hey, hey, hey. This ministry refused to be unlocked. I was just like, I just stopped and said, if this was Abuja, how will I do it? you know. And then it was just like I found somebody who knew the PA to the minister. And I just like parlayed them. I said, hey, I'm trying to meet XYZ. There's a place that they brunch. This weekend, I stayed a weekend in this country.
Wow.
Normally, I come back home on weekends, like as a rule. Again, I have young kids. I'm like, I'm not, I can, Monday to Friday, I give it to Caesar. Saturday and Sunday is for is for the Josephs, you know. And so I always try to come back home on weekends. But they said, oh, there's this place where these people hang out on the weekends. That's where they do Sunday brunch. I was like, all right, I'll be there. I'll be there. We're going to have Sunday brunch together. So um found this PA, the guy was there, Sunday brunch. Oh, hello. I went to say hi. You know, part of the Audacity is also Nigerian. That Audacity
Yeah.
can be greeting the minister. It's quite Nigerian. Um And I went and I just said, hey, I just wanted to introduce myself, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, we landed a meeting and we were able to do the work, you know. So that is one thing that I feel like just like my sense of knowing the gatekeeper, making sure that you have access to the gatekeeper and they are okay with you, and then finding information that helps you then, you know, show up and actually engage. That for me was a very Niger thing. And the other way that this shows up, though, just more broadly in my career, I would say is here, like as a consultant here, even at much younger levels, we have the opportunity to engage with the most senior leaders, right? It's not as stacked as, you know, our, you know, I guess sister offices in the Western world. And so because we're like it's very counterintuitive, but we're a smaller team, and we don't have like 20 million partners and all of that. So even as the manager, you can talk to the CEO. You'll be invited into the meeting with the CEO, and you might even get to present, right? Um, and the leadership factory value prop, right, that McKinsey offers, I think is so much more pronounced on this side of the world versus, you know, um, in other geographies, they're like 20 partners. In fact, they're going to have to decide between those 20 partners, how many of them are going to go to the meeting with the CEO. It cannot reach you as a manager. Like, it's not possible. And so just even building that, you know, confidence to engage with C-level execs, to engage with leaders, even in the public sector early is something that has served me because it's the same thing that I was like, this minister, I can talk to the minister. And I've been talking to ministers for how many years? It's okay, I'll go and meet them. Versus a partner in a more developed country that probably has never even engaged at that level, right? So there are pros and cons on both sides. But I found that that exposure to, you know, very senior leadership early has given me, you know, confidence and audacity to just continue to engage like that. And even if I moved abroad today, I would not operate any differently. It's like, they can't bite me, they won't beat me. The most they'll say is no, and it's okay, but I will engage. Yeah.
So we're gonna go to the next section of this episode. It's an audience question that I think is perfect for you because it has to do with how to show up in corporate space where what's right is ambiguous. So the person goes, "Dear Zero Gen, I recently started a new job, and one of my coworkers, who's super nice by the way, calls me my darling every time. Good morning, my darling. Can you send that report, my darling? I know they probably mean well, but it makes me uncomfortable, especially in a professional setting. I didn't grow up in a place where you called your boss or colleague darling, and I don't know if saying something will make me seem uptight or too serious. Am I overreacting, or is it okay to say something? How do you even handle this kind of cultural gray area at work?" Person signed off as not your darling.
Let me start by saying, darling. um, no, I acknowledge that it's very uncomfortable, especially if you're not cut from that cloth, right?
Yeah.
Um, I would say two things. One is to check if this is just about you or if this is just this person's style, right? Because before you go on, you know, giving feedback and saying what you like or do not like, it's just important to assess what it is. Is this person has this person put you in a bit of a box? Because, you know, darling is very much almost like they are not infantilizing you, but you know, they might just think about you as just junior and sweet and not necessarily competent and capable, right? So I think understanding if that's just their broad style and they call everybody darling. If they do, then don't take it personal. Honestly, just shake it off.
Yeah.
However, if you realize that it's something that is peculiar to you, then you need to have a conversation. Um, and you should have it. I mean, I engage with humor. I think like humor makes everything palatable.
Yes.
So you can have a very difficult conversation. So there's candor, but you can soften it a little bit. And so I think it'll be important to have that conversation to just say, "Oh no, you call me darling. This is interesting. I see you don't call everybody else darling. Tell me about that. I'm just curious." And then maybe it then brings them to a place of self-awareness, right? So don't go like with boxing gloves and say, "Don't call me darling." No, just engage question, like being able to ask powerful questions is such an underrated
Yeah.
skill. Because by the time you ask the question, the person will think and be like, yeah, should that, like, it's always better when they come to the realization by themselves. So I think if it's not broad based, don't take it too personal. But if you're still uncomfortable with it, just say something, but also ask the question and say, you know what? Why are you calling me darling? Do I remind you of somebody that you loved? And the person can just say, oh no, but I called you because X, Y, Z. And say, I'd rather you call me Kemi. I'd rather you call me Dami. And that's it. Like you have had the conversation, you've interrogated this with grace, right? But also at the end of the day, you've made your own, you've spoken up and said, I would rather you call me Kemi because, maybe you say from where I'm from, darling is only used in romantic settings. And, I don't want people to think, just blame it on the people,
Yeah.
right? I don't want people to think there's anything inappropriate here. And I would just be much more comfortable if you called me that. But before making that assertion, I would encourage you to interrogate it very gracefully to understand where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah, but your discomfort is valid,
Yeah.
especially because it's not something that you're used to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very valid. And that's very wise because me, I would have said, go, I mean, not with boxing gloves, but I like the humor. I like the way that you're like engage with humor and also engage from a question so that the person in answering is also like doing that brain work of like, oh, maybe this is not the appropriate thing to call. So I really like that. Or,
Yeah.
passive
Yeah.
aggressive me would have said, go to HR.
Yeah.
Also, let HR have the hard
we
conversation.
don't we don't start with HR. We just need to check. Yeah,
Check.
that's what I said. Let's check. Is it everybody? If it's not everybody, then it's you. Okay, so why me?
Yes, yes.
And then when you're now, getting to that, then you can see how you wanna
Yeah,
proceed
yeah.
from there. Even after you've said, I'd rather you called me this because I'll be more comfortable. If they now don't comply,
Yes.
after several reminders, because you tell somebody something once, they've been calling you darling for 18
Yeah.
months, okay, maybe not 18 months, maybe 6 months. That your one-time warning is not what's going to change them. You're gonna have to, you're gonna have to train them, right? To call you what you want. So you have to keep reminding, say, hey darling, that'll be Kemi,
Yes. Yes.
things that it meant. I mean,
Yeah.
I will laugh about it, but you will train them to call you what you
Yeah.
want them to
Yeah.
call you. So if after all of that, then escalate away.
Yeah. Yeah. Very wise, very wise. Okay, we're almost at the end. I think two more questions. if so this if Jakpa is about escape and about leaving, what do you think staying is about? And what do you think staying tells the world?
I think staying is about believing that there's something worth fighting for, right? I believe that staying is saying, um, some of us have to be here for us to have somewhere, for us to have somewhere to come back to, for everybody to have somewhere to come back to, right? So it's believing that there's something worth fighting for. Staying is saying I keep saying I'm betting on Nigeria, right? I've looked at, and my husband and I have these conversations. The amount of opportunities that exist in chaos is just immense,
Mm-hmm.
right? The opportunities in chaos is immense. And there's a way, I mean, you can look at chaos and just see everything, no, everything's scattered. Or you can look at it from a different lens. So staying is also saying, I'm wearing I'm wearing a different tint on my glasses, and I'm seeing opportunity in chaos. I'm seeing opportunity um, not only to, add value, but also to extract value,
Yeah.
right? In the chaos. That's what it's saying. And it's saying, I believe there's something worth fighting for here. If there's no conviction, honestly, there's no point, right? And this is the reason why I have to be very honest. I remember my best friend, the first time I said she was Jack Wine. I didn't handle it well. And let's
You
just say she
crashed
was me
out.
cheating.
You crashed out.
I didn't take it well. And actually, it could have rocked our friendship because I kind of was like, "Are you okay? What do you mean?" I didn't handle it well. But as I've also grown and matured, I also understand that not one way is the way for everybody. Some people are actually called to go,
Mhm.
right? I don't know if you saw my Wimbi's debate.
Yes, I
The
saw
debate,
with
the Wimbi's
Oyeyemi like
conference.
several years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It was 2019, and it was interesting because the two of us that said leave were still in Nigeria. So they actually found the national list and said, you people should, debate the
The other
opposite of what you're
side,
thinking in your
yeah.
soul. Exactly, debate the other side. And truly, some people are called to go and, go and be, great, in other places, right? There are people that are being, that you need to go for your own life situation to just stay alive, right? Because, you need to go away. So I do think that there are different ways and different paths and different journeys that we're all called to. What is most important is that you are running your own race, right? You're not living out of peer pressure and you're not staying just out of stubbornness.
Yeah.
Oops, sorry. I am not staying out of stubbornness, right? You are running your own race and you are doing what you're supposed to do because that's where you're gonna find the thriving, that you speak of.
Yeah.
And so, staying just means this is the instruction that I have. I believe there's something worth fighting for and there are opportunities that exist. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. And
Yeah.
finally, um, so I'm calling this section customs declaration. So you declare. You declare for customs. But before we wrap
All
up,
right.
just one joy, one pain, one piece of wisdom from your journey as someone who has chosen to stay. Anything. It could be either or. So it doesn't have to be one of each. But
Oh, oh. I think a joy is um being close to my nearest and my closest, like my sibling, my parents, my community, being like a 30-minute drive away at most is a joy.
yeah,
And especially now that I am raising kids, like that's a big, big, big joy for me. Our children speak, you probably know, but our children speak our native language. It's their first
I love
language.
that.
And just the joy of being able to give them a gift of identity is priceless. I know abroad people do it, but for us, what has made it easier is that our we have reinforcing we have reinforcing mechanisms. So all our domestic staff speak to them, especially because we're working parents, so we're not always with them, but we have domestic staff that speak to them. Their grandparents speak it to them as well. And they have like all of these spaces where they can practice. So I think that's a big joy that we're situated in a place where it's possible for us to have access to community and our support system, but also give our kids the gift of identity through language. So that's a joy. Um, a pain. Where do I begin? But I think like not having prompt access to some of the easier, basic things, can be a bit of a pain. That access you can create it, but it's not quick, right? You have to build it. You have to build your infrastructure. You
Yeah.
have to do all of that.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
rapid. That's a bit of a pain. And I think now one of the pains of being here is that some of our nearest and dearest are not as close anymore. And so now we have globally dispersed. My heart is in many different countries.
Yeah.
The way to say it. That's how I say it.
Yeah.
My heart is in many different places. Yeah, it's a bit painful, but yeah.
Yeah. I have a dream that one day,
We'll
one day we'll all come
be
back.
neighbors.
One day we'll be neighbors.
Yeah.
One day I'll live on the
My
same
sister-in-law, my sister-in-law lives in the UK. Yeah.
Yeah.
And every time we see, we're like, we should be neighbors, and then we
Yeah.
laugh. Haha. So
Yeah.
I have a dream that one day we'll be neighbors. Yeah.
I love that. That's such a
Yeah.
fantastic note to end on. Thank you, Kemi, for your time, for who you are, and for all the work that you're doing in your family, in your personal life, first of all, and then, in your job, and then in your community. You're such an inspiration. Thank you for making the time to chat. I have enjoyed every minute of this. I wish you so much love and success as you continue to go on.